I wanna shave my eyebrows and paint them raised. I wanna document a changing face, and when I call to collect.
Hey guys, this is Chauncey from Session Stories, and today we have joined with us Thomas Benfield. He is hailing from Connecticut, and we're so excited to have him on for our segment.
Glad to be here.
Very cool. Yeah, so I initially discovered your music, I think it was while I was scrolling on my Instagram Reels, and I heard you playing, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. It definitely reminded me of Manchester Orchestra Band of Horses. It had this kind of early 2000s alternative nostalgic vibe, and I was definitely immediately a fan. So yeah, huge fan of your work. Love the sound. It's very cool.
Thank you. That's actually one of my questions. I was curious how you found me, because for me this is all just getting started, and maybe my reach is like around my own house. So yeah. I'm surprised that you found me at all.
Yeah, it was really good. And then I delved a bit deeper and went on the YouTube page that you have where you're also playing music, and I saw that you just recently started uploading your music to YouTube. I think it was last month. What made you take that leap and like really go all in and start putting your music out there for the world to hear?
Yeah, so this is a totally new thing for me. I've been writing songs forever, but always pictured it was just sort of a thing for myself that I would do in the mornings to enjoy my life a little more. Yeah. And then I met these incredible musicians at a songwriting retreat, and they offered to help me record. That felt like the beginning of something. And so I started just putting music out to see if there's any more interest than just them.
Very cool. And just curious, how would you describe your sound to new listeners? Because I mean, your voice is quite unique. I was struggling. I was teetering between like indie, alternative, but also there's like a hint of melancholy in there. And I'm just like, what exactly is this category? How would you classify what your sound is?
Yeah, I guess it's pop music because they're pop structures for the actual songwriting, like verse chorus.
Yeah.
But in terms of the like feel of it, maybe acoustic indie. But my lyrics, I think, come a lot from punk music, and so I think there's a little bit of post-punk in there too.
So speaking of post-punk, pop, a bit of alternative, what are some of your music inspirations?
Well, I love I guess you'd call it like sad boy music. I love Elliott Smith, Neutral, Milk Hotel, Bright Eyes. I love I can never remember if it's Cinema Coma or Coma Cinema. But that guy is amazing. And all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's kind of a whole. This is one of the problems today is the way we experience music is all like, even though the songs come from albums, it's almost like we're only listening to singles.
Yeah.
Because we're saving individual songs. And so like a bad sort of symptom of that is that I don't even know the names of a lot of the people I love.
Yeah. Yeah. The way we consume music has definitely changed. Can we expect any singles or EPs officially coming out from you? I tried to look on Spotify. I was like, maybe I can find an acoustic version of one of his songs on Spotify, but I didn't find it. So is that in the works?
Yeah. So back in May, I recorded at Far Cry Records.
Oh, cool.
That's the studio owned by the Milk Carton Kids, that folk duo.
Okay.
And Vera Sola produced, and Kenneth Pattengale of the Milk Carton Kids, he was the engineer and helped produce a lot too. And so that was back in May. It's still mixing, mastering phase, and I don't know how to do any of this, so I have no idea if I should do like a single at a time and then release the whole thing,
Yeah.
Or since I have no reach, like, do I just put it all out all at once just
I
because?
think that seems to be the pattern from what I've noticed, is that a lot of people will put out singles, kind of see what resonates with the audience and what picks up traction, and then from there morph that somehow into an EP, and then the grand finale is the album, I suppose.
Yeah, right. So that feels like the way people do it now. So I'll probably do it that way. So I guess it'll be a slow trickle. But there were 5 songs, and that'll be within a year, I guess. I'm hoping maybe to like put up some of my just like iPhone recordings in the meantime, just for something to be there.
Yeah, very cool. Listening to your lyrics as well, I quite like them because, well, I probably shouldn't say they're not shallow, but there's depth behind your lyrics. So how do you get into this creative headspace or mind space for when you actually begin to create a song and create the lyrics and the construction and all of it comes together? Is there a certain process or a certain rhythm, or like, do you have some type of ritual that you get into for your creative thought process?
Ritual is a good word for it, because I do it just about the same way every time. I don't think I can think about lyrics as separate from music, and so I always start with having some kind of chord progression, like something to write from. I start by mumbling just word sounds, not words, and that's how I suss out the melody and, most importantly, the line rhythm. So once I have a melody and a line rhythm, some of those mumbled sounds will have already kind of like transformed into a whole word.
Yeah.
And then sometimes by then also maybe a whole line has just kind of sprung from like the sounds that occurred to me organically.
Yeah.
And I kind of just like rinse and repeat, but I always think in terms of couplets. I like songs that are like an essay where it's like on topic the whole time, and a story like beginning, middle, end. I listen to songs like that, and there's such a history of that style in folk. But I don't write that way. Mine are super disjointed, and really the only parts that make sense are the couplets. Like one line makes sense with the following line, and then it's almost like it resets. And in terms of sense making, it's almost like all of those little gestural sketches kind of amount to something in my mind, like some feeling of a story, but you couldn't read it like a story.
Yeah, that makes sense. When did your music journey begin exactly? So I know you play the guitar. Are there any other instruments that you play? And what made you want to pick up a guitar maybe in the first place?
Yeah, I also play the ukulele. And
that's what I meant, ukulele, sorry.
Yeah, I play guitar and ukulele, and that's how it started, was the ukulele. It was according to my parents. I don't have many memories from back then, but I guess I was 4 and like obsessed, and all I wanted was to play guitar, and so they bought me a ukulele because it would fit my hands, and that it's just always been a real comfort, for like a daily comforting practice for me. So it started way back then, and falling in love with writing happened later, like around 10 or 12 is when I started like realizing that music was more of like a
passion, not a hobby, maybe. Or
I guess that like the musicianship of it was like a springboard for being a writer. I guess I care a lot more about writing lyrics than I do writing like the score, like the music of it. But they need to be together.
Yeah, it needs to be cohesive. Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of influences, if you could pick someone, let's say either still living or that has passed away, to collab with, who would you pick?
That's a tough one. Maybe could it be a whole group?
Yeah.
I guess I love this British band called Trudy and the Romance. They're so good, and their older stuff is like kind of lo-fi indie mixed with like 1950s doo-wop.
Nice.
It's so fun, and they've kind of moved into more like country, because I guess England's like crazy about country now. but, but I don't know why.
Are they? It's like, I didn't know this.
The whole thing, there's like bars opening, like country music. It's nuts. But so I guess they're all alive as far as I know this morning. Brad Stank was the drummer in that band. He's now like a solo, incredible, cool other entity. But I would love to, I guess, time travel like a few years to be in that like doo-wop phase
Yeah,
with that drummer.
yeah, that would be
Mhm.
really cool. That'd be super cool. And when people listen to your music, is there something that you hope that they take away from it? Or is there like a message that you hope they take away from it, or a feeling?
Yeah, maybe a few feelings. I guess mostly feelings, because it's not really like moralistic or like I don't even necessarily believe in a lot of the stuff I say. So I think a lot of it has to do with the texture,
Mm.
like the emotion behind the thing. And so I hope people feel a little bit soothed because it's slow, sort of like mellow kind of music, like acoustic music.
Yeah.
But then I hope they also feel a little bit of like almost like they're venting a little bit, kind of the way you feel when you listen.
Sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sort of a mixture of like the acoustic and the punk feelings. That's what I'm going for, I guess. Or at least that's why I do it for myself, is that sort of like venting, trying to understand something, and also feeling a little more calm at the end of it.
Yeah. What would you say was the most challenging part of getting started in your career with music?
I guess it depends on what you're starting from, because everyone has at least one strength to begin with. And I count myself lucky because I think my strength is sitting down to write songs. And so coming into all of this, kind of showing myself to the world, I feel lucky that I have a lot of work to show. But the biggest challenge for me because of that is that I'm coming from a place of like isolation.
Yeah.
And so I'm really nervous about like how I present myself. There's a lot of self-consciousness for me because I have this like blank slate. And so it's funny to cultivate an image. For other people, maybe that's what comes naturally. And what they need to work on is like honing their craft more. So who knows? I think you just look at what the elements are like on the table and just target the thing you're worst at.
Yeah. I would say that's a universal feeling, not for all, but for most new and upcoming artists, is that there's always going to probably be this creeping sense of insecurity. How will I be received? Will my music be perceived in the way that I want it to be? So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of self-doubt there. So I can completely understand that.
Yeah, you think you know yourself, and then you're supposed to like talk to the camera, and you're like, which me do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's which clothes do I wear? Like it's
Yeah, I mean, like obviously it's about your music, but you're also selling yourself as like essentially an image and a brand. So you want to make sure you get the package right the first time, ultimately. So yeah,
that's the most unsavory part, but it matters. You know, even when I think about the artists that I love, and I hope I love them because of the like talent and what they've made.
Yeah,
there's something alluring about who they are too, and so I have to remember that like people want to know those little things too.
Yeah. Exactly. And then I suppose if you could leave your viewers or listeners with one final word, what would that be?
Maybe my favorite word, eloquent. Be eloquent.
Amazing.
Be concise. For the projects you're working on, be eloquent. Do it well and be concise. Work fast and finish stuff. And thank you for paying attention.
Very cool. Thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. So nice meeting you.
It's just a government